In the last couple of years, we've seen portable DAC amp combos explode in this hobby. There's a pretty wide variety of portable gear you can get your hands on. For example, like the iBasso D16's high pan is basically the same price and build as a small desktop unit. And while it's not quite portable, it's certainly transportable. But then you also got units like the M15i or the DC Elite or the Go Bar, which are all pretty much the same size, and they're much bigger than an Apple dongle, but they're not quite as big as lugging around a DAC amp. They're pocketable and they're way more convenient for high-end audio sonic pleasures on the go. Then there's like a weird middle ground with units like the CMA18 from Questyle or the Earman L amp, which kind of remind you of like a iPod in its size. They're definitely pocketable, but I think they would still be best used convenience-wise for if you're sitting at your desk at work or you're sitting at the kitchen table or whatever. Cayin's latest offering is the RU9. They basically blend all these things together and they're giving you a unit that is definitely pocketable and very convenient to use, but it also boasts the power of a desktop unit with multiple filtering options and my favorite part, the magsafe capability. And I really think that they created a new benchmark in personal audio on the go. And just look at how fun this is. So Cayin's been a pretty big name in this hobby for years. Their HA amp series is definitely a community favorite, certainly a favorite here around the office. Then they also have some really impressive flagships like the HA300 Mark II, the Cayin Soul, which are really just the pinnacle of craftsmanship, tonality, and just overall excellence technically in an amp. RU9 is a little bit different than what we've seen from Cayin. They did have the RU6 and RU7, which were a little bit closer to what we were talking about before with the DC Elite, more of like a DAC dongle. But RU9 takes things into a little bit of a different direction, so let's start out with the build and design here. It has a pretty sleek rectangular design. It's very lightweight for its build. And again, it doesn't really remind you of anything that we've kind of seen from iBasso or Assel & Kern, like think of the Nunchaku or the HC4. But I don't really think that's what Cayin's going for here. It's about 4 inches long, 3 inches wide, and it's about a 1/2 inch thick. It really kind of reminds me of a little bit of a bulkier classic iPod. That being said, the iPod is obviously very pocketable, and while this isn't quite an ultra portable DAC dongle, I do think it can easily slip in and out of your pocket. On the bottom of the unit, Cayin RU9 has 2 output jacks. It has a balanced 4.4 millimeter as well as a standard 3.5, along with coax output on the far right. There's also a switch to toggle between the battery mode and the direct current mode, plus there's 2 USB-C ports. One is just for power and one is for the audio and data connectivity. On the right side of the unit, you'll find the power button as well as a timbre button, which essentially cycles through the unit's sound modes, which we'll get into a little bit more in the next section. And then on the left side, there's playback controls, your play, pause, your track forward and back. And the volume wheel sits kind of on the front of the display, and it features a smooth scroll style adjustment. And of course, I can't talk about the RU9 without talking about what's definitely my favorite feature of this unit, which is its MagSafe capability. As an iPhone user, the convenience that MagSafe capability brings here is just such a cool treat, and it's something that we really haven't seen too much of in this space. We've had the RU9 for maybe 7 or 8 weeks now. I've taken it home multiple weekends just for casual weekend listening, and I gotta say, although it's maybe a little bulky in your pocket, what's Cayin kind of thought about this, and the cable that it comes with is a really small 90-degree USB-C cable. So they already were thinking about that. I know sometimes if you have like a DAC dongle in your pocket, like we've done, where it kind of hangs out of like your pocket, there's not really like a good way to keep all that in there. So even though the RU9 is a little bit on the bulkier side when it's in your pocket, the MagSafe capability, especially if you are an iPhone user, just brings a totally different level of convenience to this setup. It just feels right, and I would really love to see other brands, other manufacturers kind of implementing this into their stuff. I just think that this integration should be streamlined at this point. And now that I've seen it done and I've fallen in love with it, I really just think it should become like a new standard. And whether that's the actual design of these units or if we can start making cases that implement MagSafe, I would just love to see other manufacturers start doing this as well. Cayin really thought of everything here, and convenience is just the one word that keeps coming to mind when we talk about build and design. I really appreciate the sleek and the innovative craftsmanship on this set. It just makes it all the more desirable to use. All right, that's enough talk about how this thing looks and feels. Let's get a little bit more objective here into the sound. I'm going to try my best to be super analytical and objective here, although I should just get my bias out of the way right now and tell you that I actually really love this unit. I've been listening to it pretty religiously over the last couple of weeks. I wrote an article on it that came out, I think at this point, maybe a month ago. I think we kind of dropped the ball. We're a little behind on this video, so sorry about that. But I just want to get my bias out of the way and say that I really do enjoy the unit. I think it's quite impressive. Also, just want to be as transparent as possible. Most of my listening on the RU9 has been with my Zenz T Pro. I listened to the Arcanus. I got kind of addicted to that set for like a week. And I was even trying to drive headphones on it, so I was listening to the Meze 109 Pro, which is like my favorite headphone ever, and I was really trying to test its power, and I was trying to drive the Aria Unveiled on this thing as well. My source was almost exclusively either my iPhone 16 Pro or my MacBook Air, and I almost entirely listen to Apple Music. All right, with all that nonsense out of the way, let's get into how this thing actually sounds. So the RU9 has 3 different filter modes that you can swap through. The first one being classic, that looks like a little C in the top right corner of the screen. That's essentially your classic tube mode. So it's going to be a little bit more engaging, kind of a little bit more musical, adds a little bit of warmth. Then you have your solid state mode, which again, in that top right corner of the screen, that just looks like a big 0 basically. Solid state mode completely bypasses the tubes, and it's going to give you a little bit more of a technical reference sound. And then probably the most interesting filter option is the modern mode. This is essentially tries to make a blend of both classic and solid state. So I think if you're not quite a dead reference guy and you don't want it to be too neutral, but you also don't want to be sucked in onto the beach with warmth. I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but I think I think you can get the point that the modern mode is kind of like a happy medium. Again, if I'm just being honest, I did spend most of my time on the classical mode. My preferences, I mean, I have a HA2A on my desktop setup. I really love the tube sound. I like the warmth, and I spent most of my time listening to classic. Sonically, this is a really impressive unit. It has plenty of power. I do think that there are more powerful portable DAC amp units that you can get your hands on. And I think that there's much warmer portable DAC amp units you can get your hands on as well. Even though this is a tube device, it isn't like the most traditional tube sound. I think it strikes a really nice balance between technical detail as well as musicality and lushness. It delivers a really big, wide soundstage, and what I really think it's going to do good at is get the most out of your IEMs. And that's kind of what I've learned to really appreciate about this set. It doesn't really completely take over the sound signature. It's going to highlight the specific qualities in your favorite IEMs in your collection and give them a nice alley-oop to essentially do what they were made to do. Again, while giving you impressive detail and adding just a little bit of warmth from the tubes. I think that there are much more traditional tube sounds you can get your hands on in this kind of portable space. I think the Ibasso Nunchaku is really warm and has a way more traditional tube sound. And I think there are obviously more powerful portable units, you know, the DC Elite and the Mojo 2. While I think they're a little bit more clinical and detailed, will provide you just a little bit more power than the RU9. But again, when you look at the build and the convenience factor, as well as just all the different options that you get with filters, so add versatility to that, and still plenty of power and really impressive sonics, this is a really competitive set. It handled everything I threw at it, from budget sets to multi-$1,000 flagships. It scales up really nicely with nicer sets, and honestly, wherever you are in your audiophile journey, I think that you're gonna make good use of the Cayin RU9. So let's get into a couple of comparisons here. I tried to pick 2 sets that are similar in their form factor, similar enough in the price range, and obviously similar enough in the sound. So today we're going to be going head to head with the Ibasso Nunchaku and the Earman L Lamp. So first we'll take a look at the Nunchaku. So compared to the Nunchaku, RU9 definitely has more of a transparent and reference sound. Nunchaku really leans into the warmth that you might expect from a tube device. However, the RU9 definitely features much sturdier build quality and has no microphonic issues at all. That was like the big catch with the Nunchaku. I remember when that came out, a lot of people would shoot us an email like, hey, the device sounds great, but if it's jostled around in my pocket too much, I'm getting like a high-pitched ringing noise, which is a little bit of a bummer because the Nunchaku is a way easier portable device, obviously a much smaller form factor, and it really packs a really great sound. So that's something that the RU9 I think definitely takes the cake in, while the sound is maybe a little bit more clinical and not as much of a classic tube sound that you would expect, it's way more convenient and way more reliable when it comes to its build, and you're not going to get any interruptions with it jostling around in your pocket. Again, I mean, they built it with magsafe capability. They know it's going to be on your pocket when you're taking a walk or moving around, and I really do appreciate that there's no microphonic issues on this set. I mean, at least none that I've experienced at all in the last couple of weeks. So that kind of leaves Nunchaku with still this weird thing of, well, yeah, it can fit in your bag and you can take it to the office, but it's still best used just probably sitting at your desk. So if you're really looking for a tube sounding device, I think that you're going to get more warmth from the Nunchaku. But if convenience and portability is on your mind, even though it's a bigger unit in its build, I still think RU9 is going to be the one for you here. And then we got the L amp or the lamp. This unit I think is the closest that we have to the RU9 in terms of its build. It's obviously a little bit skinnier and a little bit thinner than the RU9. And it's also a budget-friendlier option. And then what comes with that is less features. It's also similar in its sound. Again, it's not the warmest sounding tube device out there, but it's gonna give you a little bit more of an edge in the musicality, kind of similar to what the RU9 does. And again, it all kind of checks out. You're paying a little bit less. I do think that the sound is a little bit less detailed and less exciting on the Earman L amp. So I think that you're paying a little bit more for the RU9 for its better build quality, for all the features that you get, and for the sonics as well. The L amp was really hot when it came out, but if you have the extra $100 laying around in your budget, I would definitely recommend the RU9 here. So we've gone over the sound, we've gone over the build, I've preached about the MagSafe and how much I love it, and I guess now the ultimate question is this for you? I think there's a couple of different factors that we have to look at when it comes to asking this question. We obviously want to be able to inform you as much as we can so that you can make a smart decision if you're looking to purchase this unit. When it comes to the sound, if you have a handsome IEM collection, I do think that this is something that you should be interested in, especially because it has the 3 different filtering options. You can essentially craft this device to be what you want it to be based on what you're listening to. So I do love the versatility factor, and here I go talking about MagSafe again, but it is really, really convenient for if you're going for a walk or you're doing chores around the house. It's just nice that they thought of, you know, how it's going to perform on the back of your phone. And so, okay, we got that with the cable. We made that really small cable. It's really nice to use. And the reality is it's just a fun unit to use. I obviously have had to use it for the last couple of weeks doing the written article in this video, but it has just become something that's been like a stationary unit on my desktop. So if you have a lower end DAC amp dongle and you're looking to make an upgrade, I really do think you should seriously consider the RU9. It's fun to use, it's convenient, it's versatile. Cayin is known for their exceptional quality control. And I really do think, especially at the price point, this has essentially established itself as one of the newest benchmarks in this hobby. All that being said, I think that there are some circumstances where this unit maybe wouldn't be for you. I think if you're someone that has the DC Elite or you have the Mojo 2, I do think that those are better sounding units and they might be a little bit more detailed, but it's a totally different experience than the RU9. Especially if you look at something like the DC Elite, I really don't know that there's a more powerful unit in that price bracket. And I'm addicted to that thing. I mean, I've loved that unit for a while now. But it can be pretty clinical and reference in its sound reproduction. And while the RU9 isn't quite the standard tube device, it is going to bring a little bit more musicality and is a little bit more of a laid-back device. And if that's your biggest complaint with the DC Elite and you do want something a little bit more casual, then yeah, this would be a great unit for you. All that's to say is, if you're already in this price range looking around for a portable unit, I really think that the RU9 should be something that you consider. It's practical, it's powerful, it's genuinely fun to use. It delivers an excellent sound that is going to appease tube lovers and also reference lovers. It's a great fit for just about anybody in this audiophile space, no matter where you're at and what your collection looks like. Versatility and convenience, I think this might be the new king, and I'm really happy to have it around the office. And now that all my reviewing for this unit is done, it's still going to be in my pretty much daily rotation. If you have any questions about the RU9, definitely be sure to hop in our live chat, shoot us an email, whatever you got to do, hop in the YouTube comments. We try to be super engaging and we would love to chat with you about it a little bit more. Also, this is obviously my first long form video I've posted on Bloom's YouTube, so definitely down for all the roasting in the comments. Just let me hear it. The Cayin RU9 is currently available on our website, bloomaudio.com, as well as a ton of other awesome personal audio units in this really weird, niche, and fun audiophile space. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, and have a great day. Peace.